Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about project resilience, or in general, a life resiliency that you need to develop. In project management, there's a curve where the system is performing in a reliable manner or very optimum. And what happens is that something happens, a disruption happens, and all of a sudden the performance goes down from a stable line. That is the optimum performance. The disruption happens and it goes down. There is a resiliency threshold where it's easy to recover the project, but making some minor adjustments and going back on track and being on the optimum performance again. But sometimes it can dip lower and goes to a brittle zone when everything becomes a little bit risky. In personal life or in projects, there might be a point of no return where if it just keeps going down, there you essentially cannot never come back or make the project happen or put it back on the optimum line. This also applies to your personal life. Imagine you are a PhD grant candidate who just graduated, or a master's student who just graduated. If you did not start finding a job before your graduation, what happens is that you're going to have a disruption. Your income might go away, you might face other challenges, your confidence might be impacted. There's a disruption to your life. And from your optimum performance that you might be feeling very proud because of your master's or PhD or whatever you're doing in your life, all of a sudden there's a disruption and it starts going down. Now, the easy way to come back up is that you find a job, right? You go back on the optimum performance because now you have a job, you have an income, and if you like the job more, this recovery path is like just higher and higher up to the very optimum point. The point is that sometimes, because of some reasons, for example, some people's supervisors tell them that no, you should finish your thesis first and then start looking for a job, or things like that that happen. You are risking your personal life at the cost of finishing a PhD, right, or a master's. What you need to do is to start that job search or that hunting way before graduating, so that there's no disruption to your life, there's no disruption to your confidence, there's no disruption to your income, there's no disruption to your social circles, because the moment you graduate and you start looking, there's a disruption period unless you have something arranged beforehand. This happens in other areas of life. Imagine people who get into addictions, right? The life is going optimum, and all of a sudden they try something that is just disruptive to their brain, their health, their wellness, their mental well-being, and they go down. If they can essentially get rid of that addiction, they can go back to the optimum performance. Now, of course, there might be side effects or other things, but if they cannot, they might just crash, right? And they might never recover, or they might really go deep down that it will be super hard to get back to that optimum line. What is important is that your life, I don't want to call it a project, but there's a lot of things in project management and in general the concept of managing life that can apply to our personal life, our education, our careers. And one of them is this concept of resiliency, right? You need to be resilient in your life. If you're going on an optimum path, remember, if you have only one plan, for example, you did a PhD to become a university professor and it didn't happen all of a sudden, it might be a disruption to your entire career and you might start going down, right? You need to always have multiple pathways available to you, multiple plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, right? If this doesn't work, you want to minimize this disruption. If plan A doesn't work, you switch to plan B so that you stay on the optimal path. And now, if you want to change the path later on, for sure, you can do that. Or you probably have heard it that if you want to change careers, make sure that you have 6 months of your income available to you, up to a year, right? Because you want minimal financial disruption to your life, because there's a compounding effect. For example, when you lose your income, you might go into debt. When you go into debt, your credit scores are impacted. When credit scores are impacted, financiers do not really want to lend you any more money, right? So everything is disrupted and there's a compounding effect, and this slope can get really deep very fast. So the solution for this entire pattern is to make sure that you stay resilient and you make sure that you have things in life available to you that you can use and utilize and leverage in order to stay on your optimum path. And this is super important. This is something that you should really start planning ahead. If you're a student, if you're taking a course, if this is your life, if you are changing your career, always remember the curve. You want to be optimum. You do not want to have a disruption and going down. And if you do, you want to have contingency plans or plan B, C, D, E, F, right? And go back up all the way to that optimal path. This is super important, and you should really take care of this resiliency concept in your life. I hope these are helpful to you. Thank you so much.